The General Industries Workers Union of South Africa has expressed its shock and outrage following the publishing of a job advertisement by the Department of Sports, Arts and Culture. The posting states that the preference will be given to coloured, Indian and white males, as well as coloured and Indian females. GIWUSA says this is discrimination and that it's not only divisive and oppressive, but also serves to distract the working class from government's failure to deliver jobs for basic services. GIWUSA President Mametlwe Sebei joins us now to expand the topic. A very good evening to you, Mametlwe. Thank you for your time. I mean, you're not taking this too kindly, looking at what's at stake here. What is your immediate reaction?
Well, it is, blatantly racist. It is reactionary. It is regressive. Because let us be absolutely clear. The country has made commitment to redress the injustices of the past. In that past, the African majority in particular were the most oppressed, denied access to education, employment opportunity, and of course, leadership role at any levels, of the state, and of course, in the management of the industry. And our understanding is that the employment equity targets are about addressing that. Now, you can say what you can say about them, and we can debate that, whether are the effective way of addressing structural injustice or not. And we need to address that. But what this advert does do is that it basically turns the whole thing on its head and in fact take us back to the hierarchy of apartheid, where Africans who have for hundreds of years of colonialism and apartheid era repression and discrimination were completely excluded from employment, from education, from every other opportunity, are now completely excluded. White people who have always been at the top of the social pyramid and privileged by successive colonial and apartheid regimes are again on the list of preferences. Now, I've seen on the social media people are rallying on the basis that coloreds deserve a chance as well, and so on and so on. And I don't understand, how does this thing become about coloreds when colored are part of the historically disadvantaged people, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with the colored and Indians being given preference. The problem here is, how do you, in order to achieve that, exclude another group that is at extreme disadvantage, not only from the past, by the way, even in the present? Every statistics on employment, on access to education, and everything that is wrong in this society, it tells you that the Africans are at the receiving end. Right?
Is it complete exclusion, Mametlwe? Is it complete exclusion, or in terms of trying to interpret this, is it complete exclusion, or is it diversifying the workplace? I mean, how best can one place this just to get an understanding of why this advertisement came out like this?
What will be a rational basis to implement affirmative action against the people that were historically excluded for hundreds of years? And to this very day, it's not just a question of the past. Look at every indicator of injustice and inequality in this country and tell me, who is the most marginalized? From the ownership of the land, the income inequality always put Africans at the bottom. The level of unemployment is highest among Africans. Level of homelessness, lack of housing, lack of access to quality public services. Africans, by every measure, not only are they historically, but continue to be oppressed and marginalized, excluded today. So how can any preferential program of affirmative action excluding this pass any test of redress of equity and even lawfulness within the framework of this constitution? But also, by the same logic, in what planet does anybody think that the people who remains at the top of the corporate ladder, at the top of an income, income pyramid, right?
Yeah.
Being the white people who own most land than any people than any other group and so on. The white males, right? The people who have monopolized power, economic, political, and in every other segment of society. How can these people be marginalized? And by what logic do they deserve redress? So what we are dealing with here, it is somebody who is consistently committed, right, to reversing and taking society backward to an apartheid era. And you can just look what I'm talking about. This is someone, by the way, who has nothing but flattery and praises for Orania, right? A town where people like you and I are not even allowed to go, right? This is somebody who praises, the genocide of the oppressed people in Palestine. This is somebody who thinks only black migrants in this country have got to be gotten rid of, but that doesn't stop him by every measure to be saying, well, white people should be coming in the country and all those things and so on through preferential visas and all those things and so on. Right? So this is somebody who is consistently anti-African, who is promoting divisions, particularly within the black majority, and who is completely aligned, by the way, with the right-wing forces on Orania, with the AfriForum solidarities of this world, and of course the most reactionary apartheid regimes in the world, including a Zionist Israel, and who is xenophobic, who is reactionary, and of course very racist, as we say.
So you've since issued an ultimatum, you've given a deadline, you have a number of demands that you've put out. One of them is that the advertisement needs to be withdrawn. Talk to us a little bit about some of the measures you'd like, some of the action that you'd like to see happening.
We are consulting, legal teams. This thing is not going to fly. So let's be clear about it, right? We're not going to allow it to happen. The idea that we're going to allow right-wing parties to begin to carry out affirmative actions against people who have suffered oppression in this country is not going to fly. So we are preparing a legal or official letter of the union, depending on whether we get legal assistance or not, and we'll put them on taps. Failing which, we're approaching court, we're approaching equality court, we're approaching, Human Rights Commission and other avenues. But also, we'll also be mobilizing for actions if nothing is being done. And what are we calling for? The advert must be retracted, right? There must also, I think, be a review of the policies in that department. Because if this is its outlook, what else is it happening? We need to ask questions about that. But also calling on the president as the head of the executive to be firing this man. This man is guilty of racism, is guilty of xenophobia, is guilty of the most outrageous, reactionary, genocidal, Zionist incitement in this country. We are saying that there's got to be a compliance of every state organs with the spirit of the Constitution when it comes to redress, which is to say, we are trying to create a state at the very minimum that is representative of the people of this country. And excluding people who have been historically excluded by apartheid, by colonialism, is not serving that. If anything, it takes us backward. And therefore, he must be held accountable. And part of being held accountable, he must be, fired from the cabinet. And failing which, the ANC has got to accept responsibility for its conduct. And that is to say that the ANC does say, by implication, they agree that African people must be excluded from employment in the state where the affirmative action was meant to benefit them and other groups that are historically excluded, including colored and Indian, and you can see even amongst white people. It is only white males, right? It's white males only. It is conspicuous by exclusion of white females who are also considered excluded by apartheid. Now, that tells you, this is also sexist, right? This is a man who just stand against everything that this democracy actually represents. How do you have that man in executive of a state?
Very well. Thank you so much for weighing in on the conversation. Very important question there that you ask as we wrap up this conversation. GIWUSA President Mametlwe Sebei speaking there about their call to action after an advertisement that was published calling for, affirmative action not included there, but a story that we will continue to monitor because a 7-day deadline has been given here.